on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honorable members, votes and proceedings. July 29th, page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15. 16, page 17, page 18. Yes. Yes, Honorable Leader.
Mr. Speaker, page 18 to 19. Just an observation so that we know what is appropriate. After the debate on the motion, which is numbered 18, my understanding per procedure, you had referred the supplementary estimates and other matters to standing committees and the finance committee. I would want to believe that yesterday's motion was approving the policy principles of the mid-year review of the budget, so that when the finance committee comes back is when we will give the approval to the said amount. That would be my understanding based on procedure. So I thought that yesterday, in our enthusiasm, the Speaker put the question, but he ruled. But I think that your referral to the committee has to come back for us to appropriate within the rules. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Majority Leader. Please, just a moment. Chairman, you may make a contribution. Then leader will...
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I will raise the same issue, and the minority leader is right. Our orders provide in 145.
Order
145.
Order 145.
1405.
140 sub 5.
Sub 5, yes.
Yes. Just a moment. Let's all open. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, that any part of the budget relating to revenue expenditure shall stand committed to the Finance Committee, which shall consider it and report to the House on it within such the Business Committee may determine. Mr. Speaker, the practice is that at the end of the debate, we vote on the principles underpinning the budget. And so the caption on the order paper was incorrect. It should just have was wrong. We shouldn't be on the estimates. As a matter of fact, we did the same thing last year. And the Finance Committee did a report, we submitted it and debated it fully, because as it is now, we don't even know the details of the 11 billion and the expenditure. And we are programmed to meet the Ministry of Finance this afternoon to consider the supplementary estimates. So what we should have been voting on It's just the mid-year budget and not the supplementary estimate as well.
I thank you very much, sir. Honorable Majority Leader, any contribution?
Well, Mr. Speaker, that is moved by the mayor. Indeed, this is the full complement of the motion that was moved by the minister. And it's on account of that the of the Finance Committee reported, and indeed the debate was on the motion moved by the minister. Now, into it, that is approving the financials. We'll limit ourselves to just a figure, that second leg. But to the extent that the motion that was moved was, a two-part motion that was really encapsulated in one, we cannot hive that leg off. So what has been done is right. But when we come to determine the financials, certainly we will limit ourselves to that leg only. And that is how the House has been conducting this business in the supplementary estimates. It's not tidy. It's not tidy. But perhaps going forward, we may have to look at the best way of doing it. But that is what we have always been doing. We don't separate, at the time of the referral, we don't separate we don't decouple, I should say, the motion and say that we are debating this and then come to debate the other side. But perhaps we will know what to do, maybe to further improve the system. But that is what we have always been doing.
So let us make it clear among ourselves that what appears on the other paper is not to the exclusion of our subsequent discussion on matters relating to Order 140 sub 5, which of course I did read on the very budget day. These are subsequent matters for and approval by this honorable House. Thank you very much. Page 20, page 21, page 22, page 23, page 24, page 25, page 26, 27, page 28, page 29, page 30, page 31, 32, page 33, page 34, page 35, 36, page 38, page 39, honorable members, the votes and proceedings of 29th July, as further explained upon, are hereby admitted as true record of proceedings. 21st July, official report. Any corrections therein, please, honorable members? The official report refers to is hereby admitted as true record of the proceedings. Honorable members, business statement for the 12th week. Leader of the House.
Speaker, the Business Committee met yesterday, Thursday, the 29th of July, and arranged business of the House for the 12th week, ending Monday, the 10th of August, 2020. Honorable Speaker, the committee accordingly submits its reports as follows. Speaker, you may read any available communications to the House. The Business Committee has scheduled the following ministers to respond to questions asked of them during the week. The Minister of Communications, whose questions were initially programmed for this week, have been uploaded to next week. And she has 4 questions. The Minister of Energy has 7 questions. The Minister for Special Development Initiatives also has 1 question. The Speaker, it does appear we may have to include in the list the Minister responsible for communications who was slated to answer questions today, and who has submitted a request to us to have the questions rescheduled. So, in all likelihood, the Minister of Education would have his own questions also being tipped off to next week. Speaker, in all 3 ministers, to include the Minister of Education, then we would have to 4 ministers are expected to attend upon the House to respond to various questions. Speaker, pursuant to Order 72, ministers of state may be permitted to make statements of government policy. The statements duly admitted by you, Right Honorable Speaker, may be made in the House by honorable members in accordance with Order 72. The bills may be presented to the House for first reading in accordance with Order 120. However, those of urgent nature may be taken through the various stages in one day in accordance with Order 119. The Speaker, pursuant to Order 75, papers for presentation to the House may be placed on the order paper for laying. Committee reports may also be presented to the House for consideration. The Speaker, motions may be debated and their consequential resolutions, if any, taken during the week. The Speaker, committee recommends that a meeting of the Committee of the Whole be held on Wednesday, the 5th of August, after adjournment. The meeting is expected to enable the House to take decision on outstanding pertinent issues. Honorable members are entreated to arrange their affairs to enable them to avail themselves in the chamber for their deliberations. Mr. Speaker, the House is scheduled to sit on Monday, the 3rd of August, and sessions of the House may also be extended beyond 2 p.m. as stipulated in Order 42 to enable the completion of scheduled business for each day of the week under consideration. The Speaker, as the House is already aware, the House is expected to sit in the following week on Monday the 10th. The 10th of August, the House certainly would sit. The Speaker, I need to have some consultation with the minority leader. Unfortunately, I couldn't avail myself at the Business Committee meeting yesterday because of history, the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs' own commitment in the morning. I need to engage in further for us to know exactly when the House may take an adjournment, because there's a whole load of bills that we have to deal with. It does appear that we may be able to rise on that Monday, but perhaps we take some additional days on that day. But as I said, I need to have some consultations with the minority leader on that. Already I see some shaking of heads, but the person shaking the head is not a minority leader, so I will not on that matter. Mr. Speaker, Tuesday, the 4th of August, that is next week, is expected to be a holiday. That is the Founders' Day, a statutory public holiday. So the House, in all likelihood, would not sit on such a day. The figure, in accordance with Order 162 and subject to Standing Order 53, the committee submits to this Honourable House the order in which the business of the House shall be taken under consideration. Mr. Speaker, the order of business is set out in programs for transaction on the various days listed, and given the volume of work, Speaker, I don't intend to read the agenda for each day, and to plead with the Handel Department to deem this as having been read and capture same in their hands. Speaker, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, Honorable Bubro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last weekend we held a validation workshop in Akosombo on the standing orders of the House. My anticipation was that a motion would be added for next week's activities so that the House can approve of it. Mr. Speaker, I know how passionate you are about the private members' bill. There's no way we can make progress with that if the House has not approved of the which the committee validated over the last weekend. So I'm hoping that next week, perhaps if some space could be found in the order of business so that the House can, look at it and approve to enable members who have already made some strides towards presenting private members' bill be able to do that. The Speaker, yes, I'm still trying to do a bill before I leave. My colleague is reminding me. We are 4 months to go. I'm still trying to do a bill before I leave, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, finally, the Interior Minister. I know last week when the business statement was presented, the minority leader intimated that it would have been useful to have the Interior Minister in the House to appraise the House of certain incidences happening. Mr. Speaker, it can't be right that civilians are threatening officers in uniform with guns. It can't be right. And these incidences of civilians threatening men and officers in uniform bode ill for all of us. So again, the Interior Minister has to be proactive to appear before the House and at least assure the House of what steps he's taking to curb some of these unnecessary happenings. With this, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for the opportunity and encourage colleagues to support the business statement.
Thank you very much. Honorable Bridger.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, just want to add my voice to my colleague Ras Mubarak about the standing orders review. I think if the majority leader and the business committee can apportion some time next week so that we can work on it quickly. The second one has to do with the Real Estate Agency Bill 2020. It's been referred to our committee. We have worked on it. I was expecting Real Estate Agency Bill 20. I was expecting that at least a second reading would take place before we rise. But I haven't seen it being admitted or scheduled for next week. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to plead with the Business Committee to program it for next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member for Dakulu. Honorable Member for Dakulu.
Reverend Speaker, my colleague has made useful points on what I wanted to talk about. So,
very well. Thank you very much. Honorable Majority Leader, please. Honorable Minority Leader, I'm sorry.
No, Mr. Speaker, I didn't even attempt to catch your eye. The Honorable Edward Barr was engaging me just to thank the leader of government business. But probably, Mr. Speaker, to plead with him. He was not present because he was holding some discussion with leaders of committees on some matters to improve our business. But the Wednesday, the 5th of August, probably the committee of the whole should be on the 7th, because members would have returned from the voter register. And there are important matters that this House must address, including, Mr. Speaker, some concerns you have asked leadership to share with members. When you do it on the 5th, we may not have available reasonable numbers to conduct the business. And then, Mr. Speaker, I renew my call. We have said that the Minister for Employment will have to come and update the House on the impact of COVID on employment and the measures government is taking to support distressed industries or hospitality entities that are in distress. We haven't seen that helping program for our purpose. We need to understand the real economic and financial impact of COVID on employment in Ghana. And then, Mr. Speaker, I had discussion with my colleague that we need to prioritize what is truly edges of government so that we can dedicate time. But, Mr. Speaker, we observe that you come, forgive me my word, we waste 2 hours sitting idle when you are available for us to commence business. So I think we must support your attitude. When you come in 2 or 3 members, reasonably, we presume that there's quorum if members is not coming in to support us do business, because we can't sit and start at 11 or 12, then prolong the sitting when we could have been working. I expect that leader drew my attention to the investing bill. If we start at 10, by 12, because we have the architecture for it, we'll be able to deal with it. So our time, we can't continue telling the public that 10 a.m. Speaker adjourns, comes in, members are not available, he has to authorize for bell to be rung a number of times. It doesn't depict us as honorable men. So, Mr. Speaker, and even today, I've made a quiet request to the majority leader that I have to adjourn early because many of us are Muslims, and today is the day of Arafat, and tomorrow is very significant for us in the Muslim calendar, Eid al-Adha. We may have to be in our various constituencies to support the Muslim Ummah to observe a COVID Eid al-Adha. So I've made an application for him that today we probably should do what he considers urgent, then we can adjourn earlier, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Ras Mubarak relates to the approval of the new standing orders. The approval of the new standing orders. The Speaker, we are working on it, and fortunate for us, over the previous months, we were able to about complete it. That is the Standing Orders Committee. Don't forget that what work that have been done earlier have been done by the technical committee that worked on it. So the Standing Orders Committee needed to appraise itself of it and take possession and ownership of it, which was what was done over the. Now they need to clean it up. The final document, I believe that shouldn't take too long. When that is done, then we determine the process of the approval. The Speaker, these are orders. Are they orders in the sense of Article 11, which then will require our laying it for a 21 sitting day rule to apply? Or is it the case that because Parliament can regulate its own affairs, we could just approve of it in the House. Speaker, we went through history, and what information that you are gathering is that the first one that was laid in this House and approved, that was in 1993, didn't go through that. It didn't go through the 21 sitting day process. Equally so is the amendment effected in 2000. It also was not referred to the subsidiary legislation committee. The Speaker, whilst the marking up is going on, we are still in consultation to know the best practice, and if you have to approve of it before we adjourn, if it's possible to do that, then we could do that. If it's not possible, it has to be laid, then we could lay it for it to mature when we come back. But we don't want to do anything that may offend the law. But we will come to some determination on that. The second issue that he raised is what he alleges to be civilians threatening men in uniform. I've not heard about that, and I would suggest to him that these statements that he makes really are not really healthy. Please, they may for now be allegations. We can't put them out here in this House as a matter of fact. You might have heard, I haven't heard. And to the extent that it's not been ascertained, you cannot say emphatically that civilians are threatening men in uniform. If indeed it's true, it will be most unfortunate and unwelcome. And certainly something must be done about it. I'm just suggesting to you that these statements must not come from you as a matter of fact, because you might have heard, or perhaps even if you see it to the extent that it's not proven yet, you cannot put it out there as a matter of fact. Mr. Speaker, so if it requires the minister to come and respond to it, so be it, by whatever means that we can get him to come and respond to it, because it's part of our job. We have to respond to it. The minister may have to be brought here to respond to it. But certainly, it's not part of the statement for the day. And so you can't attach it or annex it to the business statement of this day. Speaker, I think it's the first part answers the question of the Honorable Becher in respect of the standing orders. The real estate agency bill, the chairman came to see me this morning, and we're trying to we'll look at it to see whether we can attend to it this meeting. If it's not possible, and we have to shift it to the following meeting, we may do that. But as the minority leader is saying, we need really to prioritize, because there are so many very urgent and pressing bills that we have to attend to, which is why I express my fears that we may have to conscript some other days beyond that mandate to complete those bills, because some of them real circumstances of the country now attend to and process them and indeed pass them before we adjourn. This is the committee of the whole meeting that the minority leader related to. Indeed, as I said, I wasn't at the business committee meeting, but when they brought the draft statement to me, it was the first observation. I said to them that it may be difficult to have the committee of the whole meeting on Wednesday. I do know that many of colleagues may go maybe this evening, and they may find it difficult, given where 4th August is, to come Monday and then maybe Tuesday. So I believe many of our colleagues who are leaving today may not even come back until Tuesday evening or perhaps even Wednesday. So I suggested that we have the meeting on Thursday. So if you find favor with colleagues, we'll move the committee of the whole meeting from Wednesday to Thursday. The issue that is related to, the other issue that is related to, in respect of the impact of the COVID-19 coronavirus disease on employment, I think it was raised earlier and by the Honorable Ras Mubra. Same was communicated to the minister. The Speaker, we wanted him to come at a particular time. Unfortunately, as he related to us, he came with some information. He himself indicated to us that the information was not complete and that was looking for further information to come to the House. So, in all probability, the Speaker, it may be important to invite the Minister, at least before we adjourn. He may have to come to apprise the House on that. The Speaker, the other one, relating to when the House has been sitting lately. Really, we cannot fault anybody. What's been happening is that to enable the House move forward faster on the bills that are before us, we do some winnowing on the amendments proposed. Unfortunately, sometimes it's difficult to make a headway. So after we meet in the evening to do the winnowing, many times we have to meet early morning again to continue the winnowing process. And when we are finished, we allow time for the table officers to clean up what we might have done at the committee level and factor same on the other paper. So, Mr. Speaker, you realize that many times we have several addendum other papers that bear the amendments that the winnowing committee might have agreed to. And when we do meet in the morning, it becomes impossible to have the sitting at 10. So we deliberately inform that we sit anytime between 11:30 and, which explains why we have been sitting late this day. But, Mr. Speaker, it is not deliberate, it is not anybody's fault, but the fact that we want to move the House faster on these bills. The Speaker, the period of adjournment, I think I carried the sentiments of some colleagues to you at the preceding meeting that we had, that we endeavor to adjourn early today. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe with goodwill, we can do that, adjourn early today to enable our colleagues to move to their various destinations, to join ranks with the Muslims in the various constituencies, to celebrate the Eid al-Adha. Speaker, thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Majority Leader. The business statement, as presented and further explained, is hereby admitted accordingly. Honorable members, statements. Item listed for. And we have a statement to be made by the Honorable Majority Leader, supported by the Honorable Minority Leader, on the late Congressman and civil rights icon, John Robert Lewy, who visited us at the time the Speaker of the House in America, the Right Honorable Nancy Pelosi, was here. Leaders, please. Let everyone comment each. Who starts?
Speaker, permit me to make a brief statement in honor of the late Congressman John, who passed on to eternity on the 17th of July 2020 after a 6-month battle with a pancreatic cancer, according to reports. Speaker, he was 80 years old at the time of his transition. We are deeply saddened by the passing on of this distinguished American and civil rights leader who served in the United States House of Representatives for Georgia's 5th Congressional District from 1987 until his death about a fortnight ago. The Speaker, the memory of John Lewis is still fresh in our minds, especially when he, together with the Honorable Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, in a high-profile delegation, visited Ghana just last year 2019 to observe the year of return. As you all know, Mr. Speaker, the Year of Return program was organized to mark the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in America and to encourage African Americans and the black diaspora God for making it possible. Affectionately referred to him when he was here to visit his ancestral home before his final journey. The Speaker, Congressman John Lewis was born on February 21st, 1940 in Alabama, United States, and Lewis graduated from the American Baptist Theological Seminary in Nashville, Tennessee, and was ordained as a Baptist minister. He then received a bachelor's degree in religion and philosophy from Fisk University. As a student, he was dedicated to the civil rights movement and organizing nonviolent protests. He was also the chairman of the Student Nonviolence Coordinating Committee at the height of the civil rights movement in the United States of America. Speaker, Congressman Lewis played many key roles in the civil rights movement and his actions to end voter and racial inequality in the United States. At the age of 23, he became one of the architects, the famous Big Six leaders of the group that organized the 1963 historic march in Washington. Along with Josiah Williams, John Lewis led over 600 peaceful, orderly protesters across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, on March 7, 1965, in what was intended to be a peaceful march from Selma to Montgomery to demonstrate the need for voting rights in the state. That day later became known as the Bloody Sunday, unfortunately resulted in the loss of many precious lives. Despite more than 40 arrests, physical attacks, and serious injuries, John Lewis remained a devoted advocate of nonviolent philosophy. He continued to lead demonstrations against racially segregated restrooms, hotels, restaurants, public parks, and swimming pools. And he rose up against other indignities against so-called second-class citizens of the United States. At nearly every turn, he was beaten, spat upon, or burnt with cigarettes. He was tormented by white mobs and absorbed body blows from law enforcement officers. He remained resolute and stuck to his principles. The Speaker, John Lewis, was the last speaker at the platform on which Martin King spoke and where thereafter he was assassinated. He was the last person who spoke on that platform. The Speaker, Lewis was first elected to Congress in 1986 on the ticket of the Democratic Party and served for 17 terms in the United States House of Representatives and became the Dean of the Georgia Congressional Delegation. He was a member of the influential House Budget Committee and the House Ways and Means Committee, where on the subcommittee on health until his death. He was a leader of the Democratic Party in the United States House of Representatives, serving from 1991 as Deputy Chief Whip and from 2003 as Senior Chief Deputy Whip and sat in a direct line of succession to the #2 Democratic leadership position in the House. Lewis received many honorary degrees and awards, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The Speaker, Congressman Lewis carried the struggle for racial equality and a mantle of moral authority into Congress. Has called for healthcare reform, measures to address gun violence, fight poverty, and improvements in the educational system. Most importantly, Mr. Speaker, he oversaw multiple renewals of voting rights acts. Because of these deeds and many others, Lewis was the conscience of the Congress of the United States of America. He used every waking moment of his 80 years to push his country towards more representative democracy and left behind a remarkable model to be followed by others. His work in Congress is a reminder that democracy is a daily struggle. As such, members of parliament across the globe, including those of this August House, inspired by his work to advance the cause of democracy through our deeds, speak loudly against injustices, and be courageous to defend its times. Besides his legacy in civil rights movements, Lewis was a firm believer in forgiveness, a trait common to all forebears of the world who dare to fight for freedom of fellow countrymen. Speaker, including Nelson Mandela of South Africa. In giving account of how he forgave a man who had beaten him up after attempting to enter a white waiting room, Lewis acknowledged that the forgiveness is a power in the way of peace, the way of love. And he said, and I quote him, "We must never ever hate. The way of life is a better way." Unquote. The Speaker, his enduring legacy should inspire all of us to leave our country and the world a better place than we found it. In continuity with his battle for full participation in democracy that he began long ago with other civil rights icons, we in Ghana too can honor Congressman John Lewis by participating in the ongoing voter registration exercise and come December 7th, cast our ballots as well as that our votes are counted and that our votes count. The Speaker, John Lewis will forever be remembered in the history of the United States of America for his role in the civil rights movement, but above all, his quest for human freedom and dignity. Speaker, I'm happy to note that on Monday, the 20th of July, the name of the late United States Congressman John Robert Lewis was unveiled next to his wife, Lillian, on the South Wall of Fame at the W.E.B. Du Bois Center here in Accra. This was to honor his critical role in civil rights movement. We join other legislators and legislators across the world to extend our sincerest condolences to the family of the Congressman, Congress, and the people of the United States of America on the loss of this iconic figure, and prayers of comfort and strength now and always to him wherever he may be. Congressman Lewis a peaceful rest, and may his deeds find favor with our Maker. Speaker, thank you for the attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Majority Leader, for this well-researched paper. Honorable Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Coincidentally,
we both separately submitted statements on Congressman John Robert Lewis and civil rights icon. I therefore do not intend to read the text of my statement again, Mr. Speaker, than to indulge you so that Hamzat will capture text. But just, Mr. Speaker, as a majority leader have observed, the essence was for Ghana's parliament, led by you, to eulogize and recognize Congress John Robert Lewis, who was part of Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the U.S. Congress visit to Ghana. And Mr. Speaker, whilst I recognize that in Ghana's political history, we have had our independence movement icon counted as one of their own celebrated in Washington, where the legendary Martin Luther King Jr. made his famous I Have a Dream speech. Lewis struck an instant chord with Dr. King, who at the very first meeting asked Lewis, "Are you from Troy?" And in an interview he granted the BBC not long before he died, Lewis recounted how Dr. King, from the moment, referred to him as the boy from Troy. May his soul rest in perfect peace. Coincidentally, today is his funeral, and the U.S. Congress will observe something in his memory. Mr. Speaker, significant for us in Ghana, as the leader read the tribute, 17 terms as member of Congress. In Ghana, we are celebrating those who have done 7 and 8. And Mr. Speaker, as you have 6 and 7, we are not even at 8. Maybe myself and the first deputy speaker should dare. I want to be able to break the record of the Honorable Bagbin and the Honorable Chairman Osei Bonsu. But in observing the memory and eulogizing him, you have repeatedly observed that we should be referring to the lives of John Lewis and not the Mugabes. And I hope that would be inspired today as he passed on, so that when we are making references to the like of the Honorable Chairman Bonsu or Honorable Alban Suman and Bagbin, we will look at them in the regime of dedicated long service to the Parliament of Ghana by long tenure, and not the where the credentials of democratic values and ethos were being questioned. So in our recent national concerns raised about monetization of our politics and the accompanying high attrition rate in this August House, we need to be guided by the services of John Lewis. So I just end by saying a quote from King in Alfred Lord Tennyson's poem, The Passing of Arthur. I found him in the shining of the stars. I marked him in the flowering of his fields. But in his ways with men, I find him not. I waged his wars, and now I pass and die. May his soul rest in perfect peace. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. One from each side, and then the Honorable, please, let's avoid this tendency to start talking in our seats. First of the speaker, wait a bit. Yes, one from each side, and then the first of the speaker will wind up. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Just a few words. Indeed, the late Congressman John Lewis was a man who could be best described as a foot soldier in the civil rights movement. Very tenacious, Mr. Speaker, over his lifetime, having been arrested more than 40 times, beaten and battered. But he still stayed, and indeed, that is a story of a man who embodied humility in public service, a man who was a champion for opportunity injustices African Americans faced in the United States of America. And most recently, Mr. Speaker, in the Black Lives Matter violence, when the young American was killed recently, George Floyd, I would like to quote something that John Lewis said that is very profound. The Speaker, to quote, "I know your pain, your rage, your sense of fear and hopelessness. Justice has indeed been denied for far too long. Rioting, looting, and burning is not the way. Organize, demonstrate, sit in, stand up, vote. Be constructive and not destructive." And I think these words would be etched in the minds of many people, not just in the United States of America, but all over the world, who may feel a sense of injustice. Situating this particular incidences of injustice blacks faced in the United States of America, Mr. Speaker, we have here today in our own country where senior citizens, the elderly, the aged, are unjustly targeted as witches and wizards simply because of their age. You know, an unfortunate incident happens in a village and an elderly person gets targeted. These are acts of injustices. And indeed, if we were to find inspiration in the words of the late Congress, I'm sure it will be a guiding light. I want to thank the opportunity for our Parliament to utilize the late Congressman John Lewis. I thank you very much indeed.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this very important statement by the two leaders of the House. Mr. Speaker, today there will be three former presidents of the United States of America converging at the Baptist Church in Atlanta, USA, to talk about a man who has been to this chamber to visit us. And I recall the time he came here, he said he was the chair of the Committee for Ways and Means. And it elicited a lot of laughter and discussions in the chamber. Mr. Speaker, this is a man who has been very forthright with his comments, his ambitions, his statements, and his quest to have equality within the citizenry in America. Mr. Speaker, if you go back into history and look at decisions in the case of Roe and Wade and Board of Legal Education, fast forward, you see that a lot of things have changed in America, and there's still a lot of issues that borders on equality within the state of America. Today, I listened to the mayor of Atlanta, Mrs. Button, and she was talking about this great man that we are eulogizing today and what he stood and fought for. Is that the case? Does it reflect the policy decisions of all the administrations that has transcended the the United States of America? It's sad to note that some of the policies are causing a lot of tensions within America. And those of us here also have some interest in the politics of America because it has a larger effect on us. Mr. Speaker, policy shifts must bring about a progressive country, and I believe some of the decisions that are being taken ought to bring the people of America together with the demise of this great man. Mr. Speaker, it's a sad day in the history of the U.S. Congress and within the state of Atlanta, and I believe that the country, Ghana, also shares in the sorrows of the good people of America. May the soul of this gentleman rest in perfect peace. Thank you.
First Deputy Speaker.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to make a short contribution in eulogizing the Congressman Lewis. Mr. Speaker, last year I had the opportunity of meeting with Congressman Lewis here in the chamber and at the reception organized for the delegation. The same year, in October, I was invited, a rare honor, invited as a panelist to participate in a workshop on Jesse Jackson Foundation in Georgia, Atlanta. And on that panel was Congressman Lewis. The workshop happened day, which happened to be the birthday of Reverend Jesse Jackson. So I had the opportunity to interact with him further in the evening in Georgia. The Speaker, what was remarkable about this man was the depth of love and respect that was shown at each one of the programs that he participated in. He was respected and he was loved. The Speaker, listening to speeches about him since his demise, reading about him, I understand the reason why he is so much loved and respected. His participation for many in the civil rights struggles, his work in Parliament, leading to him being referred to as the conscience of Congress. It shows somebody who is deeply committed to a cause and is willing to do anything to have the cause achieved. From the Speaker, something stands out. He showed a certain trait, even in the face of all the violence that were visited on he and his group and him. And that was that you don't respond to violence with violence, you learn to forgive. For me, that is remarkable. Extremely remarkable in the face of provocative being spat on, being beaten, being imprisoned. He had the courage, I forgive you, and I'll move on. That is a trait I think that every public office holder must learn. And indeed, in my view, it makes him stand out as a person who learned to create public value. Public value is critical in leadership, in people who have to work for the public. Indeed, it's a trait I commend and I encourage all of us to learn, or to imbibe. I know it's not easy. Sometimes it's very frustrating looking in the face of people who have eating from your hands, turning out being extremely provocative. But it is a trait we must learn if we're going to have a country of peace. But there's also something significant about the African American Caucus in Congress, led by Congressman Lewis. Even in recent times, when George Floyd's issue came up, and they all knelt down to indicate that we are helpless. You're leaning my neck, I cannot breathe. There was something significant. They all wore kente, the unique cloth, handmade cloth made in Ghana. Something that they still recognize their roots, and it is appropriate to recognize this Congressman Johnson and wish him a befitting farewell. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Honorable First Deputy Speaker. Ghana, incidentally, the peaceful civil rights movement in the USA, has a big six, as they are well known in the United States of America. of whom Dr. Martin Luther King stood tall. The last of the big six on this earth, John Robert Lewis, will be buried today. May he rest in perfect peace. Honorable members, shall we observe a minute's silence in his memory? May the soul of John Robert Lewis, all of his big six, and the faithful departed rest in perfect peace. Amen. Honorable members, this brings to an end statement time and the commencement of public business. Presentation of papers. Chairman of the Committee on Local Government.
Speaker, the chairman was here. I don't know. I don't know whether the vice chairman, if he could present the paper on behalf of the committee. I'm not too sure, but let's listen to him.
Very well.
Mr. Speaker, the vice chairman has indicated to me that the paper is not ready in respect of item 5. So we can deal with item number 7.
6.
Item 7. We stand down 6 for the time being. I'll deal with item 7.
Item 7. Motion. Chairman of the Finance Committee.
Mr. Speaker, we have one report that covers the motions listed as items 7 and 9. So we'll take both together.
Yes, please. You may.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the motions listed as items 7 and 9 on today's order paper be taken out. And Mr. Speaker, in so doing, I present the committee's report. Mr. Speaker, what is before the House? It's one, a facility agreement between the government and Standard Chartered Bank for 41,828,793 Great Britain pounds and 77 pence, and then 6,450,000 Great Britain pounds to finance the design and delivery of prefabricated bridges for deployment throughout Ghana. The Speaker, the Ministry of Roads and Highways is currently implementing a rigorous program to improve the condition of the country's road network and related facilities. Under this program, the road agencies, particularly the Department of Feeder Roads, is rehabilitating and upgrading weak or broken log bridges with short and medium steel composite bridges, and the construction of major box culverts and bridges over water crosses to reduce the bottlenecks on the feeder road network. Government is undertaking a number of projects to arrest the poor road network. Some of the projects include the Ghana-Dutch Bridges Project, the Ghana-Accra Project, the Belgium Bridges Project, and the Spanish Bridges Project. The object of the current loan is to seek approval to finance the design and delivery of 89 prefabricated bridges to the Ministry of Roads and Highways for use. Mr. Speaker, the terms and conditions of the facilities are given in Table 1 on page 5 of the report. There's a UKEF facility and also a commercial facility whose terms are given in the table. Mr. Speaker, the committee observed that the benefits to be derived from the projects are as follows: increased access to hospitals, schools, and other social facilities, improved movement of goods and people within the identified areas, increased access to markets, improvement in the living conditions of the people living in the zones of it. The committee inquired whether the steel bridge superstructures being procured are going to be stored at the Ministry of Roads and Highways depot and will not be immediately erected. To this, the committee was assured that in view of the urgent demand for steel bridges, they will be immediately constructed to ease access for rural dwellers and commuters. The steel bridge structures are being stored at the Ministry of Roads and Highways depot only as a holding area for deployment. Mr. Speaker, the cost detail given in Table 2 on pages 7 and 8 of the report. Conclusion. In view of the immense benefits we derive from this project, the committee recommends to the House to adopt its report and approve the two facility agreements to fund the design and delivery of 89 prefabricated bridges for deployment throughout the country. Respectfully, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to second the motion. Mr. Speaker, in doing so, I'd like to make a few comments. Mr. Speaker, government is seeking for a loan to rehabilitate and upgrading the weak and the broken bridges in the country. Mr. Speaker, the construction of the box and then COVID is one of the aspects that the government is trying to do. Mr. Speaker, the bridges are expected to put an end to the situation where motorists and people had to travel a long way before they can get to their destination. Mr. Speaker, observation. Committee was informed that there are certain areas who have been termed as overseas. In terms of when you refer it is essential, different places have got a lot of places where they call them overseas of River Afram. So there's no proper way or difficult for you to access the place. So if government will put more effort or appeal to a government to help those areas who have a similar situation. The Speaker, the feeder road network are unlocking development and prosperity in the country, connecting a village to towns and then small cities. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, this loan is a very important loan for especially the rural where there's a problem in the bridges. So this will go a long way to solve the problems in rural areas. Because it's difficult for people to travel with their goods out into the cities to market them. So if this one is done, I think it will leave most of the people in the with this, Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Thank you. Leadership. Minority leadership. One. And then majority leadership. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to rise to speak to the committee's report and make a few observations. Mr. Speaker, the House is called upon to approve a facility of 43 million euros, and then we have 41.8 million of UK facility with oil cost of 3.73% per annum, and then a commercial facility of 6.450 million with oil cost of 6.04%. According to the report, the ministry has identified 5,000 bridges which they want to work on, but as we speak, this facility is going to tackle 89 out of the 5,000 that has been identified. So clearly, we have a lot of deficit to deal with. So this is what we employ government to expedite action on this one, so that other communities which may not benefit from this facility can be benefit going forward. Because like the deputy ranking member said, you see communities during the rainy season, it becomes very difficult to access those communities. And we have other communities which have had their bridges engineered, they've done the assessment and all that, but they were not captured among these 89 communities. So this is what we're employing the government to look at other communities. The stated communities, we have about 5 of them in the northern and upper east region, but with the 89, we don't have the attached list for which members can at least follow up and make sure that the work has been done, and then we can also report back to the House. So something which is lacking, because we are giving approval of 89 communities, but the list is not attached to the report. So how can members know that these are the communities that we are going to spend 43 million euros on? So I will employ the chairman of the Finance Committee to at least provide us with a list so that members, yes, so that we can police the contractor will do. Because we have a Government Assurance Committee, we have a Finance Committee exercising its oversight responsibility over those agencies. But we are giving the approval, we don't have the list. So how can we know that these are the beneficiary communities that are benefiting this project? So these are very few observations that I want to make. But in all, Mr. Speaker, we need to provide the steel bridges and then other facilities for our people, so that our people can access marketplaces, people can go to their farm, so that life become a bit comfortable for those people living in those areas. With these few words, I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Majority leadership. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to support motion. The Speaker, these 89 bridges that are going to link roads that will be constructed in the country is a very good project. The Speaker, there's no way you can get a road, especially when there's a stream or valleys that cuts the roads. There's therefore the need for us to get these bridges to link these roads together. So, Speaker, when you visit our rural areas, there are some roads that are still bridges. The honorable member who just resumed his seat from the opposite side bridges. And the Ministry of Roads and Highways made us to understand that the bridges will be fabricated and then kept at their where deployed to areas where they will be needed, and also in an emergency situation. So they told us, the committee, that when these locations are made available, the members of parliament or the committee will be given the distribution list. So I don't understand why he's calling for the distribution list now. It is an emergency bridges that will be kept and be used later by the Speaker. The distribution will start from first quarter of 2020, and it is my hope, 2021, Mr. Speaker, it's my hope that we'll distribute these bridges to serve the intended purposes. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I support the motion. Thank you.
Speaker.
Majority that you want to contribute?
I don't intend to contribute.
Then please,
the Deputy Minister.
No, please, let me ensure equity. If you want to contribute, yes, but let me ask the minority leader too.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not contributing.
Yeah.
I'm not contributing. The Deputy Minister for Roads has some response, and that is why I was pleading that we speak for him. Provide some illumination in this.
Thank you. We are most obliged. At the conclusion of the debate, all those in favor of the two motions say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Now, the resolution 8 and 10.
Mr. Speaker, we have taken motions 7 and 9 together. So we can take the resolutions 8 and 10. And I would pray that we allow the Minister for Monitoring and Evaluation to do so on behalf of the Minister of Finance.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move resolution numbered item number 8 and item number 10 on pages 4 and 5 of the be moved now. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Yes. Who seconds?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion. And in doing so, just want to explain. Sorry, I have to second the motion for resolution to adopt this facility. Yes, exactly. And in doing so, just few words to explain the list that the other side complained of. The ministry is preparing the list for the emergency bridges. Indeed, these are for emergency situations. Then I will ask all MPs whose constituencies have such emergency water crossing points to let the ministry know so that we take them on board. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
All those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is duly adopted for 8 and 10. Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, if you can take item 13.
Item
13, 1-3.
Item 13. Chairman of the committee.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this honorable House adopts the report of the Finance Committee on the financing agreement between the Government of the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Finance, and the International Development Association for an amount of 150 million United States dollars as additional financing for the Transform Ghana. Speaker, I'll present the committee's report. Mr. Speaker, implementation of the e-Transform project started in January 2015, but was fraught with some challenges initially due to the uncertainty over the implementation of a national digital ID program. Mr. Speaker, government decided to fund this activity from its own resources and requested a restructuring of the project in mid-2017. Mr. Speaker, subsequent to the project being effective September 2014, the following, amongst others, are some notable outcomes that have been so far accomplished: the e-procurement system, the e-justice system, an increment in international bandwidth, 3 tech hubs, the e-parliament system, e-immigration system, strategic plan for an integrated e-health system, ICT to about 1,400 teachers, and automatic weather stations. Mr. Speaker, the object of the current law is to seek additional funding to finance the Transform project, which aims at improving efficiency and coverage of government service through coverage of government service delivery using ICT. The project is structured around 4 components. Component 1 covers the creation of the environment for electronic government business, to which an allocation of $12.25 million has been made. Component 2 is on support for digitization and connectivity, for which $58.65 million has been allocated. Whilst component 3 is on the launch and scale-up of applications to improve service delivery in priority sectors, and $40 million has been allocated to component 3. Finally, project manager support receives $3.5 million. Mr. Speaker, the terms and conditions of the loan are given on pages 7 and 8 of the report. Mr. Speaker, the benefits of this e-Transform project are visible for all to see. In view of the immense benefits, therefore, the committee recommends to the House to adopt this report and approve the request for additional financing for the e-Transform Ghana project. Respectfully submitted, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I rise to second the motion tabled by the Finance Committee Chairman to approve the amount quoted, $115 million, as additional financing for the e-Transform Ghana project. Speaker, we interrogated the issues raised, which the chairman has amplified at under his presentation. The Speaker, we tried to find out how much progress has been made in the application of the first 97 million, because we thought that if you have 97 million already, we should be seeing some signs that the project is of real to us. But the explanation was that, well, it's ongoing, and we need this amount to carry on with it and complete it. Mr. Speaker, I am worried about the cost of the loan. Interest per annum plus adjustment, plus the basis adjustment to the interest charge plus 10 basis points on the withdrawn credit facility. So I want to urge that if we go for such national loans, the concessional element should really come out. so that we wouldn't be bearing too much. For instance, we just took IMF loan of the rapid credit facility of 1 billion, and we are not paying any interest. So when it is concessional, let us fully benefit from it, and our negotiators in such circumstances should be able to negotiate deeper than what we have. We appreciate the benefits that will accrue to the nation. Now, when we come to the e-parliament, it appears upon inquiry that the job is done, but we are still not using the facility. We have all this. Look at our desk. We still have tons of papers floating around. We've had the training, but it appears that we are not yet implementing it. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it is in your bosom to ensure that we make full use of the facility that has been installed, so that our parliament will really go electronic. With this words, I once more support, second the motion. I thank you.
Very well. Honorable Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the motion and to urge colleagues to support the financing agreement for the e-transfer. Mr. Speaker, we could not have been asking for this particular initiative than now. If you refer to the committee's report in page 10, paragraph 5.3, impact of COVID on Ghana. Mr. Speaker, I know that you are working towards it yourself as Speaker of Parliament. How ready and how responsive is the Parliament of Ghana to COVID? Were we to sit and do business as Parliament, is this Parliament enabled enough to transact business whilst we don't converge at this common place known as Parliament? Therefore, it's an imperative, very compelling. And Mr. Speaker, why this initiative is necessary at this point in time in our country's history, all of us, when we get back home, must reflect with our children. We are privileged to be members of Parliament at some level, able to do. The fate and plight of the poor Ghanaian child who is not in a private school and is in a public school, which is not connected for the purpose of a Zoom or for the purpose of study. How is that Ghanaian child coping in a COVID environment? And tomorrow, how will that Ghanaian child benefit from this? That is why I'm saying that COVID is a wake-up call, that we must get this country ready, reform our institutions ready. Even the public service of Ghana is not ready. If a government institution was to work in a COVID environment, how will they be able to do it? That is why this loan. So, Minister, 115 is not adequate. You must be preparing to carry major reforms of the Ghanaian public sector to respond to the challenges of COVID. And I'm particular about you and the Minister for Education bringing us something which assures poor Ghanaian children. My child can use his privilege to be in a good school. He is not walking barefooted as I did yesterday to go to Kulkul School or Sanaragu, Bagabaga JSS Primary. But those other category of children, we must be concerned about them. A large portion of Ghanaian children today are just sleeping home. Every parent become a teacher because of COVID. And therefore, compelling that we support the initiative of it. As I've said, Mr. Speaker, yourself, I'm told you are well making this parliament responsive enough. But we started e-parliament, e-justice. Where are we on it? And Mr. Speaker, this initiative probably started under you or probably Minister Kandaba. It was referred to as the e-Ghana project. I inherited from one of you, and I had to be in Washington to negotiate the first phase of it and even put on table this e-transform initiative to e-justice and parliament. I recall very supportive a woman called Clara, the wife of Mrs. KSM, who was very active. But Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by just referring to portions of the committee report and my concern. Paragraph 4.1, Mr. Speaker, it reads, Component 1 covers the creation of an enabling environment for electronic government and business, $12 million. Why? What is enabling environment that you want to spend 69 million on? Now, when you come to compare it to the real work, you have $58 million, which says support for digitization and connectivity, justified. But enabling environment, sometimes we should negotiate, because what is the enabling environment? Between 2008 and 2000, Ghana passed all the needed legislations on the electronic sector. We often have done. What Ghana is lacking now in communication is the applications, e-applications. We've built infrastructure and enhanced the infrastructure, but where we are lagging is e-applications. And that is where even that can create additional jobs. We need to invest in it. So, Mr. Speaker, next time we should negotiate better. Then when you say delivery in priority sectors, $40.6 million, if you multiply that times 5, it gives you a lot of money. I'm doing my own Ghana cedi equivalent of it. But, Mr. Speaker, in concluding, and Minister, I refer to the paragraph. I see the Senior Deputy Minister teasing me, page 2, and I read. Danida, for instance, supported the construction of optic broadband backbone infrastructure on the Eastern Corridor. But this was my initiative as Minister for Communication. But this is lying idle, and I'm concerned. 2012 to 2020, we invested €38 million on a project which connects Volta region to Kulungugu Boku. The idea was that there will be seamless transfer, so that when you are traveling on the road, you will still be connected on your phone and have access to bandwidth. The ministry has not made it available for the telcos to use. The state can even generate money from it. You have to ask the telcos to leverage on that infrastructure, but pay something to the state. We cannot leave this standing idle. 2012, I left the ministry. Yesterday, 2020, you say Danida, 120 rural communities were all connected to it. So, Mr. Speaker, I support the motion. It's compelling and it's an imperative. We will support you to reform this parliament, and this parliament, as you said, to benefit even from it, part of the enabling environment. The bandwidth capacity here is low. When you enter parliament and you go to settings of your phone, you just can know that you are not connected to high bandwidth connectivity. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this project has its genesis in e-Ghana project, which commenced in 2006 under your watch. And it continued in 2014 under the leadership of the then Minister for Communications, who is now the Minority Leader, Haruna. And due to the challenges in the implementation of this project, we've had to seek additional funding to enable the initiatives that have commenced to be properly concluded. Mr. Speaker, it is unusual for the World Bank to provide additional funding which exceeds the original project. The original sum was $97 million. They are providing us with an additional funding of $150 million in view of the importance that digital platforms have assumed during this era of COVID, and the importance that the uncompleted interventions would have in assisting the government of Ghana respond adequately to the challenges of the virus using technology. Mr. Speaker, I can stand the concerns of the speakers who spoke, earlier speakers who spoke on e-Parliament. However, the infrastructure and the systems are complete. I believe the training is also completed. We're waiting on the House to indicate when the system can be launched and to operate fully. With a few adjustments, the infrastructure that has been put in place can even support the virtual operations of this House. So we might not need to meet physically to conduct our business. And I'll urge the House to work with its internal project implementation team and the e-Transform project implementation team to facilitate the launching of the e-Parliament so we can put it to full and effective use. Mr. Speaker, currently, the additional funding that we're seeking, and I would urge the House to support this our request, and in view of the minority leader's questions, I would crave your indulgence to fully itemize what we're seeking would do. Mr. Speaker, we need additional security for the National Data Center. It's part of the enabling environment for e-government and businesses. We need cloud storage, a cloud overlay on the National Data Center to make it possible for services to be provided remotely. Now, with the cloud overlay on the National Data Center, we would facilitate the implementation of a learning management system for all public universities and tertiary institutions in this country that is currently being developed between the Ministry of Communications and the Ministry of Education. This will enable our children who are at home to study remotely. And as we look forward to the opening of the next year, for the universities to also be able to provide distance learning to those who will be unable to have physical instruction. So all of these initiatives are currently ongoing. For the public sector as well, we have a smart workplace which is facilitating virtual operations of many public sectors. Currently, over 400 ministries, departments, and agencies are on the system, and they are utilizing it. And the additional capacity that is being provided here would also facilitate the expansion of the smart workplace, which is based on Microsoft Enterprise license, which the government has already procured, to all these departments, agencies, municipal and metropolitan and district assemblies as well. Mr. Speaker, we're working on providing data analytics and visualization software for open initiative, which will enable us to adequately utilize, analyze, and plan with the data that is being generated across government. It is sitting there not being used in silos, and the infrastructure we're putting in place will pull it all together, available for use by the planners and academics who would find that data useful. Cybersecurity is also being catered for under the additional funding, with the extension of the managed services and additional training for the e-verification and authentication system, which is the PKI. We're also working at scaling up the innovation ecosystem with the Ghana Innovation Hub and the Ghana Technology Lab, which will provide more training and skills, IT skills, digital skills for our young people. Regulatory reform and capacity building is so key. We need to develop our digital, we need to reform our digital strategy and make it responsive to the current and emerging trends. We're currently putting in place many of these digital initiatives. It has to be encapsulated under the Ghana Digital Economy Policy, which would create the framework for all the various initiatives that we are undertaking to take place. We're determined to digitalize, formalize our economy through technology. And this is that will be done, including additional studies on digital economy and implementation of parts of the quick wins in this process. Under subcomponent 1 as well, the digitalization of the Ghana Immigration Service will be done, and the Office of the Attorney General and the Ministry of Justice would also, their records would also be fully digitalized to enable them to take full advantage of technology, improve upon their operations and expedite justice delivery in the country. All the digital initiatives that we need robust digital infrastructure and connectivity to ride on. And so the bulk of the additional financing being sought is going towards backbone connectivity district centers, which will link all our 254 districts to facilitate their utilization of GIFMIS and the tax revenue information system, TRIPS, I believe. Last mile connectivity to all our health centers would also facilitate the uptake of teleconsultation, telemedicine, and the full implementation of the e-health strategy that has been developed. We need to provide support to the Security Operations Center of the National Information Technology Agency and fully implement part of the national e-health strategy, as I've indicated. Digital schools are also part of this funding.
You may please conclude.
Mr. Speaker, it's because the minority leader wanted to know exactly what we were using this funding.
You can still make a summary.
Thank you. In sum, Mr. Speaker, these initiatives would, about 90% of the funding being sought, would enhance our country's preparedness in using technology to fight the COVID response. And it is the urgency attached to it that has enabled the World Bank to fast-track its process to enable us come to this point. And so I would urge the House to support this project funding and give its approval for it. And finally, there were challenges with the Eastern Corridor project. That is why it is not being fully used. However, many telcos are currently using it as we speak. Its operations are being commercialized under the commercialization of the government digital infrastructure project. But the poor laying of the fiber made it susceptible to extensive fiber cuts, and large sections of it have had to be completely reconstructed, and that is what made the uptake of it. However, it is part of the national digital infrastructure that is being put together to form Ghana Digital Shield, which will enable us to respond more effectively and accurately to pandemics of this nature using technology, and to extend digital and distance learning, e-health, and the various e-governance initiatives to ease governments doing business and facilitate greater interactions between the states while we have a fully digitalized economy. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. At the conclusion of the debate, all those in favor of the motion, number 13, say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is duly adopted. 14, resolution. Honorable Minister, Dr. Akutu, you may please.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the resolution numbered item number 14 on page 7 and 8 of the order paper be moved now. I so move.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to second the resolution. Thank you.
The motion for adoption of the resolution has been moved and seconded. All those say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Motion duly adopted. The first speaker will take the chair at this stage. Honorable Majority Leader, what is the position?
Mr. Speaker, we do item number 11.
Item
11.
Item listed 11. Item 11, motion. Chairman, Finance Committee.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this Honorable House adopts the report of the Finance Committee on the financing agreement between the Government of the Republic of Ghana, representing the Ministry of Finance, and the International Development Association, ID, for an amount of 200 million United States dollars to finance the Ghana Jobs and Skills Project. Mr. Speaker, I will present the committee's report. Mr. Speaker, the objective of this project is to facilitate socio-economic development of the country through an improved support for skills development and job creation across the country. Mr. Speaker, the project has 4 components. Component 1 is the provision of apprenticeship training for jobs, for which an allocation of $60 million has been made. Component 2 is the provision of entrepreneurship and micro and small enterprise support for jobs, for which an allocation of $100 million has been made. Component 3 is the operationalization of the Ghana Labour Market Information System, upgrading of district public employment centers and services, and independent performance review of select government youth employment and skills development programs, allocation of $30 million. Mr. Speaker, component 4 involves capacity development, technical assistance, and project management support for enhanced skills, jobs, impact, and that has been given $10 million. Mr. Speaker, terms and conditions of the loan are in paragraph 4 on page 4 of the report. Observations. Mr. Speaker, the committee noted that the cost of the proposed project is estimated at $200 million and will be fully financed with the present IDA credits. The project will be over 6 years and is expected to close in 2026. The committee was also informed that administrative information from MBSSI and corporate to government indicates that for every direct job, 2 or 3 indirect jobs are created within the income-generating activities that apprentices and entrepreneurs undertake. In line with projection, the under component 1 and sub-component 2.1 are expected to yield 105,000 to 157,000 indirect jobs. In total, expected minimum direct jobs are 94,500. Expected minimum indirect jobs are 105,000, and expected total minimum jobs 199,500. Mr. Speaker, in view of the foregoing, the committee respectfully recommends to adopt this report and approve by resolution the financing agreement between the Government of Ghana and the International Development Association of the World Bank for an amount of $200 million United States dollars to finance the Ghana Jobs and Skills Project in accordance with the Constitution. Respectfully submitted, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to second the motion because to approve a loan amount of $200 million United States dollars to support other projects that has been stated by the chairman of the Finance Committee. Mr. Speaker, the concessional rate is amounting to 22% of the facility. But Mr. Speaker, if you look at the various components, component 1 of the facility amounting to $60 million, which is a provision for apprenticeship training for jobs, that will cost us $60 million of the facility. But Mr. Speaker, the question is, after the people have gotten the training, what next? Because startup capital becomes a challenge for many of the people. So there's a provision in the report that after they've gone through the training, an amount of $40 million made available for provision of apprenticeship training, competitive business, and startup grants to individuals for jobs so that they start something on their own. This is what we are urging the ministry, that it should not become a partisan issue, so that those who undergo through the training will equally benefit from this grant so that they can also start business on their own. Because some people who go through the training, by the end of the day, they will acquire the skills, but will have nothing with the skills. and they'll be roaming around the street as unemployed graduates and all that. So we'll plead with the ministry so that all those who undergo the training should benefit from the 40 million facility made available to them. But Mr. Speaker, the startup capital is $40 million. After that, component 4, capacity development, will cost us $10 million. And then, if you turn to component 4.2, that one is going to cost us $10 million. So, capacity building alone is going to cost us $40 million, which is 25% of the loan amount that we are contracting. I think it is on the higher side because those who are going to benefit from the facility are getting 40 million, and we are building the capacity of officers who are in those ministries who have acquired some skills already. They are going to spend $40 million for capacity building. We should have at least half it so that we can increase the starter capital to the newly trained people so they can get enough starter capital to expand their business, to also create employment for other people. Because, Mr. Speaker, the report is telling us that by the end of 2019, our labor force was 12 million, 12.9 million, and it's estimated that every year we have to create employment of about 300,000 people. So clearly we have a backlog to deal with. And at the committee level, the minister admitted that it's very difficult to get information at our labor market. But we hear Minister of Agriculture churning out numbers. We created 500,000 jobs. Even in the budget, the minister is saying about 759,000 people have lost their jobs. But there should be a central point where, at the click of a button, one can get this information. Right now, if you know the unemployment levels in this country, Mr. Speaker, you can't find it. Because we were told in this budget that they are going to create a dashboard. And with a dashboard, we have a central point where one can access this information. So if you hear the numbers that you've created employment of, let's say, 500,000 people, where do you get those information? Sir, I admitted that is very, very difficult to get such information. So every ministry will be telling us some numbers. There must be a central point where anybody at all can access this information so that we know that we have about 2%, 3%, or 5% of unemployment in the system. So dealing with it will become an easier task for all of us. So this is something we have to address our mind to, and then make sure that we don't spend so much money on capacity building, because $40 million, Mr. Speaker, which is about 25% of 200 million, is not a small amount of money to be spent on capacity building. With this few observations, Mr. Speaker, I will urge the ministry to do what is right for the good people. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
You say you don't know where I'm going.
Where I do.
Your mic.
Yes, Honorable Member for Sikuma Odobemba.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. This intervention, Mr. Speaker, is timely and is going to benefit a lot of young people within the country. Mr. Speaker, the program provides for entrepreneurship training, and like the last speaker said, there's provision also for startups of new businesses in the micro and small scale enterprises sector. This has been the worry of most apprentices who come out of training and have difficulty in setting up. The Speaker, the masters or the master craftsmen themselves benefit from this program because they also be trained and ultimately would even be accredited with the TVET. There are many opportunities for job creation and employment creation. And also, Mr. Speaker, the terms of this facility is very concessionary in nature. The interest rate is 1.35% per annum, and then the concessionality rate is 26.22%. Mr. Speaker, this is good financing, and I'll urge the House to support its approach.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support the motion for the approval of an amount of 200 million United States dollars to finance the Ghana Jobs and Skills Project. Mr. Speaker, let me say that the House has to be in earnest to support anything that would go a long way towards keeping our young men and women busy. Mr. Speaker, one of the problems we have had in the country over the years is our youth looking for jobs because there are unavailable jobs. And I think we can do better through entrepreneurship by getting them to be job givers instead of job seekers. So the principle for this request, Mr. Speaker, is very good and exciting. But Mr. Speaker, as we discuss the approval of this facility, we don't even know how many young people are on it. Out of the number of young people who are not unemployed, we don't even know the number that are skilled, the number that are unskilled. There's a long way in organizing or fashioning out a tailor-made project for these people. We say we are creating jobs for about 300,000 people. How many of these jobs would go to people who are skilled? How many of these would go to people who are skilled? These are things that we need to disaggregate. But, Mr. Speaker, I am excited about the robust labor market database. In 2015, if the House would recall, the European Union had made commitments to give some support for this particular project. And I'm so happy that it is been encapsulated in the request for particular loan. And I am also hoping, Mr. Speaker, that once the House approves of this, we have some level of coordination. Mr. Speaker, there are many agencies of state that are doing just about the same thing that MPSSI is going to be doing. For instance, Mr. Speaker, as we make commitments facility to give young people startup capital, Maslock is giving young people startup capital. The National Youth NEYEP is also giving young people startup capital. So at the end of the day, you have a lot of public agencies scattered all over the place doing just about the same thing, and there is no policy coherence as far as execute these projects is concerned. Mr. Speaker, again, if you look at the issue of building the capacity of young people, it is one of the reasons why this House in December of 2016 gave approval to the NYA Act, which gave a certain percentage of the District Assembly Common Fund to the authority so that they can use it to do a lot of youth work. So my suggestion is that there are so many youth-related activities that are scattered out, and it makes, our policy coherence difficult. We need to bring all of them together in order that they are reaching out to the number of people they are supposed to be reaching out to. Finally, Mr. Speaker, a bit of a correction on page 2 of the document. And I think in line 7, Mr. Speaker, with your permission, improvements leads to a considerable number of jobs and increased productivity through urbanization and gradual structural transformation that saw the services. I think that should be inserted in the report. With this, I want to thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the motion. Thank you very much.
At the conclusion of the debate, the question is, all in favor of the motion say aye. All against no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. Resolution. Yes, Honorable Minister for Resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the resolution listed as item 12 on page 6 of the order paper be moved now. I so move.
Yes, Honorable Rasmussen.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second it.
The motion to adopt the resolution have been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. All against say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. This House has adopted resolution numbered in today's order paper. Yes, Leader, what next?
Speaker, we may take item listed 21.
Item
21. It's a procedural motion.
Very well. Item number 21, motion. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move motion 21 and 22. This is a procedural. In so doing, I represent the report. But the Speaker,
Yes, Honorable Minister for Management.
I thought 21 was a procedural motion. But at that time, he's trying to call the committee support. It's only procedural. And you don't have to read the whole thing.
Yes, Chairman, move the procedural motion first.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move motion number 21 on page 12. I so move.
Yes, Honorable.
I second the motion, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, the procedural motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. All against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. Item 22. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move motion number 22 on page 12. But because of time, and this has been already been distributed, I would like the enhancer to capture the whole report as be read by its entirety. And in doing so, Mr. Speaker, let's read the observations on page 6 of the report, 8.2, and then conclusion. Mr. Speaker, the committee was informed that the Nima Drain project is in line with government's vision of improving flood risk and solid waste management in the Greater Accra region. It was explained that the flooding events in the past decades have led to the loss of hundreds of lives and livelihood and caused major drainage in properties. Mr. Speaker, the project, therefore, when completed, will lessen the adverse impact of the perennial flooding and improve environmental and sanitary conditions and alleviate the serious damage in life and property. Mr. Speaker, and businesses and offices located in flood-prone areas in Accra. Mr. Speaker, the committee believes would eventually enhance economic and social activities in the project area, in particular, and socio-economic development of the country in general. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, having regards to the enormous benefits likely to be delivered from the implementation of it, particularly improved flood safety and preparedness, the committee, after careful elaboration of the contract, recommends to the House to adopt its report and approve by resolution a request for approval of the design-build contract agreement between the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Works and Housing, and Mrs. UGMI Constructions and Infrastructures Globals of Madrid, Spain, for an amount of 90 million for the design and construct of a drainage and auxiliary sewage system in Accra rehabilitation of the Nima drain from Kaukudi to Odo River Basin, in accordance with Article 18.5 of the 19th Constitution, the Republic of Ghana. It's further submitted, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, wrongful member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second my chairman's motion, your motion, and also to add that, Mr. Speaker, I also recommend that the House will approve this contract or EPC contract that has been between the Minister of Western Housing as well as the Mr. Speaker, few observations though. We've noticed that this is going to be the first, not the first, this is going to, for a very long time, this is going to be one of the subterranean or what we call submarine or underground drains in the country. We have been advocating for under drains, covered drains. People call it covered drains for a very long time, where you have drains in a very big tunnel carrying wastewater to disposal site, to the sea, into the sea. This drain covers about 3.3 kilometers of work. Also, notice that, Mr. Speaker, apart from the drain itself, there'll be other itinerary works, including some work like bike or motor or bicycle routes, walkways, upgrading of football park. There'll be restroom facilities for the people around Nima and Mambo. Mr. Speaker, we've noticed also that during last 2 years, this House has approved 200 million for a World Bank project, which is called a garage project. We found out from the minister whether it does not cover Mamobi drain, and we've been told that it does not cover it. And so we want it documented and stated clearly that it does not cover the Nima drain. There will not be what we call cost on double costing of the same project that has been paid for. One of the issues that we've also noticed is that the contract document, as presented to the committee, was properly filled, and we asked the ministry and the agencies to go back, fill it back to us. We've also noticed that the value for money audit, which we all have been asking for, has not yet been done, and the committee requested that, and including the bills of quantities, and the final design should be done whilst they are working on other documentations. When it is done, the committee requested that we should be finished with those documentation so that during our monitoring committees work, we can have proper documents that will follow through how the work is completed. With this view, Mr. Speaker, I support and ask the House to support it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable. Yes.
Right, Honorable Speaker. Okay.
Yes, Honorable Member for.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the motion on the floor and to say that we should be grateful that the ministry, this facility is coming timely. Flooding in Greater Accra has been a big problem and has killed a lot of people, taking lives, over hundreds of lives in this country, especially along the lane of Mamobi, Kaokudi, Nima for this project. In fact, it will do the country a lot of good, especially Greater Accra. And the facility is quite reliable. That would do us a good, because in fact, this is one of the gates of the flooding that we have in Greater Accra. We have about 9 flood gates. And that is to be constructed from Mamobi, Kaokudi, Nima, through to Odo is something that will help. And the construction is going to be a modern one. It's going to be covered. And so it will save a lot of lives. Secondly, part of it, even on the arms of the drain, will be used as walkways. On top could be used as access. And so it will also ease traffic in that enclave. And so important that this particular facility be given the chance. And I'll call on members the good that this facility will do to us when we have the benefit of having the construction of that drain. And so I want to add my voice to this particular motion on the floor, because it will bring a lot of benefits. It will improve the standard of living and condition of the people within that enclave. Life will change because of the kind of facilities that will have the benefit of enjoying. And so I'll call on members to support the motion on the floor to ensure that the facility is approved for the Ministry of Works and Housing to have that opportunity to bring good life to us. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I rise to support the motion for the approval of 90 million euros for Nima drains from Kaokudi to Ador River. Mr. Speaker, indeed, the rationale for this project is good. It will address major problems, as we all know it. The few things I want to comment on, Honorable Bejra have commented on, but basically, Mr. Speaker, we've all been calling for covered drains. The issue, though, is, Mr. Speaker, as long as you can keep solid materials from entering covered drains, you are safe. However, as long as solid must enter, it is worse than open drain. Why? Because for you to assess where the choking will be more expensive to desil than when it's an open drain. So whilst we are all calling for covered drains and we begin to build it, we should be very careful that the entry points are well protected such that solid materials don't get in there. Mr. Speaker, with regards to the scope of works, I can see here general items and consultants and other things, but I'm told Hydro department will be the consultants. Hydro is a government agency, so why are they supposed to be paid money to do? I thought they are already on salary. If you are going to hire an external consultant, fine, but if Hydro is going to do it, we would like to know why they need to be paid extra money to do what they are already paid to do. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, we have been approving a lot of these 10 key projects. They don't come with any design. They don't come with any specification. All we get is employees requirement. Mr. Speaker, significantly to oversight them. Because you see, Parliament is not endowed with resources to follow the dozens of projects we across the country. Why am I saying? If you check this in the general items and other things, the entities who are the stakeholders in this project would have made decision for the minister, the chief directors, and everybody to go to site and oversight this project. However, Parliament that is actually carrying out the oversight is never.
Honourable Member, how is it that you want an agency you supervise to provide for you in its budget? How is it possible for the agency you oversee to provide for you in its budget? That is a misnomer.
So we have our own budget. Let's fight to put them, which we will need to do our oversight in our budget.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, one way of doing it is to make an allowance which Parliament would actually disburse. Because imagine the number of, I've just been here for 2 terms, the number of projects we have approved, and my committee never went in the life of the project to see whatever was going on, simply because they will tell you there's no money. But I thought after the approval, since we didn't get drawings, we didn't get specifications, but we are only trusting that the right thing will be done, I believe it would have been good if resources are made available to Parliament to oversight this when implementations. Mr. Speaker, I've already spoken about the issue about Hydro being the consultant. We know Hydro is a government, they draw salary from the national purse. So if 1.8 million euros for consultancy under this, if the minister can tell us, either they are going to hire the services of external consultants, or this money will be applied back into the project to enhance the scope. Mr. Speaker, I think this is a good project. We should support it. We need more of this, but I repeat, Mr. Speaker, covered drains are good, as long as you can prevent or protect it from getting solid material going into it. A solid material gets into covered drains, it becomes worse than open drain, because at least open drain, when you get choked, you can quickly go and desilt it. The covered drains, when it's choked, it's a big issue. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Well,
I'm not going to confused, but there's a very important point that Honorable Best. I want to know, please, a KOS, at what point in time must the committee or Parliament have access to the value for money audit? Because you keep raising it. Those are conditions subsequent or precedent to the contract. Because we need to understand, because you keep raising it, it keeps occurring in your reports. Must it come after parliamentary approval or before? Yes. So that we don't get it wrong and let the public feel.
But I thought you were contributing. I didn't know you intended to ask a question of a member. This is no question time. So now I'll.
Yeah, since you mentioned my name.
I think I'm overruling his contribution. I was going to put a question because I thought leadership didn't want to contribute. But very well, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a good facility, most especially when Accra is the outfall for surface water for its suburbs. Mr. Speaker, those of us who are from the other suburbs, the other surrounding constituencies and municipalities, Accra is the outfall for most of this wastewater coming in. It means that if we get the outfall right and it flows into the sea, Mr. Speaker, the other uphill will also be okay. There's huge flooding situation in the surroundings of Accra. My constituency is one, and it all flows into Accra, either through the Odo or wherever. The other thing we are seeing is that we are being told technically the sea side seems to be at a higher level than Accra itself. And therefore, there's a negative flow gradient rather towards Accra. That is where we want us to look at. Are we getting drains that will not cause a backflow? Or we are making sure that we are designing them such that it will really fall into the sea. Mr. Speaker, also, it will also mean that we need to, after this project, we need to consider the other district or municipalities as well, where we are up here. If we want to reduce certain of the covered drain, that means that we must also have concrete drains coming from the uphill to fill into it. Mr. Speaker, also, I've realized we want to encourage the ministry. Mr. Speaker, the value for money auditing or the value for money will be evident when the design works and the scope of works are all done. We want to press on the ministry to ensure that it is done quickly. And because the rainfall will definitely come and the project must start, and it's a 24-month project. And therefore, we think that it can be done well. Also, Mr. Speaker, the oversight responsibility of our committee. I think every member also have a responsibility in that. We have many tools to use as MP to solicit for information as far as execution of projects are concerned. When the execution of projects are being implemented, members of parliament, we have a lot of tools, questions and others, and the committee is making sure that they can also go and make sure that the design work, the scope work, the value for money are done. I read in the report, I'm told that they will furnish you with the audit, the value for money audit committee, and I think it's a good report in here. All it is that the committee will have to make sure that all this information are furnished to the committee and they can report them, and Mr. Speaker will continue for. So I think that we should be able to support this facility and then get those underground drains done, covered drains done. Let's also expand it to the other municipalities as well to prevent the silting of those facilities. I'm so grateful, Mr. Speaker.
At the conclusion of the debate, the question is all in favor of the motion, aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. Now, resolution number 23. Honorable Minister for Works and Health.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the resolution number 23, captured at pages 13 and 14 of today's order paper, be adopted by the House. I so move.
Yes, Honorable Ranking.
I second the motion, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All against say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Resolution number 23 on today's order paper has been adopted. Honorable Majority Leader, up next.
Mr. Speaker, I will tackle item 15.
Item number
15, 15.
Item number 15, the Chairman of the Committee of Finance.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I will move the motion 15 and 17 together because they are all in one report.
Very well.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to move by item number 15 and 17 on pages 8 and 9 respectively on today's order paper we move today. I so move. Honorable Speaker, in so doing, I want to seek your indulgence to present your committee's report. So, Speaker, I'll therefore ask the Handler Department to pick the entire report as I read half of the report. The Speaker, the Bechimentia Akumadan Road is approximately 40 kilometers in length, with gravel surface at many sections of the road, whilst the sections through Jomo, Bechimentia, and Akumadan are paved or bitumen surface pressed. The Speaker, the Agunan Kwanta Takwa Road number 12, N12, that is 66 kilometers, on the other is asphaltic concrete surface, but the road pavement has failed. Mr. Speaker, I go straight to observations. Mr. Speaker, the committee noted that the total project cost for the construction of Bechem, Techimentia, Akumadan, and the Agran Kwanta Takwa Road project, including consultancy, is 50 million and 95 million euros, respectively. Both projects are design and build projects that allows for variation. The committee noted that the contracts are a design and build contract, and that the contractor developer will be responsible for everything in terms of performance and quality of work. So, Speaker, the Bechem, Techimantia, Akumadan Road project will be completed in 24 months, while that of Agnan Kwanta and Takwa Road project is 36 months from its commencement date. Mr. Speaker, I go straight to conclusion. The committee carefully examined the two commercial agreements and satisfied itself that the project will have positive impacts on the economy of the country and enhance as well as improve livelihood of the project areas. Recommend to the House to adopt it and approve the two contract agreements between the government of the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Roads and Highways, and the Gabriel Kuato Rango Consortium for an amount of 50 million euros for the construction of the Bechem, Techimentia, Akumadan Road project, and 95 million euros for the reconstruction of the Takuna and Kwanta Road project. Respectfully submit, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Ranking Member.
Right, Honourable Speaker, I rise to second the motion ably moved by my chairman and make few comments on this motion. Mr. Speaker, this project is on a stretch of road that we are all told is very deplorable at the moment, and it's a major trunk road that impedes progress on that in that part of the country currently. Indeed, yesterday or 2 days ago, I was commenting that this formed part of the projects Cocoa Board working on in the past. The scope might have been different at that time, but my concern, Mr. Speaker, was that in 2016, when it was awarded to be completed in October 2017 for 27 million, 25% of the work was done. Indeed, the decision of Cocoa Board to suspend all those projects means that whatever we paid for the 25% of the work done has gone waste. I don't think that is okay for anybody to celebrate. We are that the current scope is extremely enhanced. Nobody told me what the scope was under Cocoa Board. We are told this scope is extremely enhanced. In the future, I still insist that since the agency that is supervising...
Honourable Member, hold on. Yes, Honourable Member for...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My Honourable made a very serious statement that the roads in question are awarded in 2016 and 25% was paid for under the Cocoa Roads project. And if care is not taken, that amount will go waste or would have gone waste. I'm yet to see any report from him being tabled to substantiate what he said. Because this is a new contract to design and build two very roads that straddles between 3 or 4 regions, Ashanti, Western, and Brown Ahafo region. There's nothing in this report that talks about what you are peddling on this floor. So if you have that report, Let us see it. Otherwise, you have to withdraw it, Kwame.
Honorable, can you restrict yourself to the matter before us? If you have issues on what Cocoa Board had done earlier, you know how to come to the House. Bring the matter to the floor.
Right Honorable Speaker, I'm privileged to have my senior colleague, a very good engineer, and a deputy minister on the floor. He guided all of us the other day. I have no reason to come to Parliament and peddle lies. We all have privileges in our committees. It is fact that that stretch of road was under contract.
So where is it in this report?
Mr. Speaker, everything that...
Is that in this report?
Mr. Speaker, that is not in this report.
So,
if I am here...
Honorable Member, can I have my word? That much you are so dear, you find so crucial. You can make a statement on it on the floor of the House or ask the minister. But for now, the discussion is on this report, and I encourage you to stick to that. You're fond of introducing extraneous matters when you can bring the matter up for thorough debate. For now, kindly restrict yourself to the report your committee has put before us, please.
Mr. Speaker, respectfully, the request made by my colleague is not for me to stop talking, but to table the whatever I'm reading. Would I have permission to speak?
That is not his call. My call is that we are bound to discuss your report. I encourage you to find a means to bring your report to the House.
Mr. Speaker, I support the motion and I encourage colleagues to approve it.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the motion for adoption of the committee's report. Mr. Speaker, since you've ruled that the Cocoa Board issue should not, since it's not in the report, it should not be commented on, I will reserve my comments for that. But the session that was awarded was about 10 kilometers, and that is about a quarter of what's taken now on the whole stretch. The session was from Bechim to Techimentia, about 10 kilometers. But what this facility is for 40 kilometers from Bechim. The Speaker, yesterday, I think we made the House understand or know the importance of these roads that we are going to reconstruct. And I will not move further on the importance of it. But what I want to indicate again is that the contract agreement or the conditions of contract has been structured in such a way that the particular conditions actually reduces the risk that the employer is going to go through in undertaking this project. Performance security that the contractor is supposed to furnish for this project meets international standards. 10% if it's the bank guarantee, or 30% of the contract sum if it is an insurance. The bank should be acceptable to the government or to the employer, and also the insurance company should also be registered in this country. Should be acceptable to the employer. The Speaker, if the contractor is to be given advance payment, it also should be a guarantee, a bank guarantee for the issuance of advance mobilization loan. So, Mr. Speaker, even retention money, there should be, if the contractor prefers to, in lieu of being deducted 5% per certificate for retention money, the contractor can also bring a guarantee. So the contract has been structured in such a way that risk that the employer will go through use. And this is also part of the value for money audit that will be submitted to the House because it's now being done. Mr. Speaker, it is a design-build contract. It's a design-build contract where the ministry, through the Ghana Highway Authority, will be in significant role in ensuring that works that will be done will be in accordance with specification requirements and that will last long for the people of this country. Speaker, with these few words, I want to urge members to support this motion, improve and adopt the report of the committee. Thank you.
Yes, leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to support the committee report. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the team report, and I see it as a good news for Techiman, Tia, Akumadan, and Takwa Agunankwanta people. Mr. Speaker, we are urging the ministry to do a good monitoring so that this project shouldn't remain in our committee report, but they should monitor and make sure that people who are to benefit from the project. And they shouldn't end it in such these constituencies alone. Mr. Speaker, when you talk about roads, we have a big problem and a big challenge in the country, especially in my constituency, Ada. For the whole 4 years, we have not benefited anything from road. So as they are taking consideration in some of the constituencies, they should consider some of the constituencies too, such as Ada, Shayo, Sudoku, and other places who are yet to see interventions. Speaker, we are pleading because when you get to Ada Junction, accident is too high, and people in Ada are crying day in, day out, and we continue writing letters to the road ministry for intervention, especially speed ramp and drainage. When it rained, people in Ada Kase suffered a lot, and we are pleading they should remember Ada and Shai Osudoku too, and get something special for us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support them for the committee.
Yes.
Speaker, we defer to Honorable Secretary. That is his constituency.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today is a very good day for us, the people of Tano South, and we are also very grateful for this opportunity being given to us by the President. Mr. Speaker, this road has been a very, very difficult road for the people of Tano South, especially the people of Techimentia. If you happen to go to that constituency, you get to know that the people of Techimentia are almost all the time crying about this road. Mr. Speaker, one time to a particular church, faith church, and I met a man who is a pastor at that church. He told me in 1962, when he came from school, his father told him that the Chimentia accommodation has been awarded to contract, and it was in papers. From that time up to this time, I was trying to tell them that this road will be constructed, and he told me until he sees asphalt on the road, he will never believe it. If you happen to also find yourself at that place and you are going to Techimentia, you will presume that the place is a village. But it's a very big town. Because of the road that you pass and the nature of the road, you will never anticipate until you get to Techimentia town, of which the people are very, very much interested when they heard the news that the President has given assent to this road, and for that matter, Parliament is also going to debate on it and accept it. Former MP Ajayabwa almost all the time calls me to find out where we've reached, and I've been going to the leadership almost all the time, and I'm grateful for this opportunity. And I know the Chimentia people will be also grateful to the government for Year of the Roads and also giving Ahafo a new region. I'm so grateful, Mr. Speaker, and I know for sure that the whole House will support this good cause. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
At the conclusion of the debate, the question is all in favor of the motion, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. Resolutions. Honorable Majority Leader. The resolution.
Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Minister will stand in for the substantive minister. Oh.
The Minister for Works and Housing is here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's a road. Oh, this is different from the right. So the Honorable Deputy Minister, yes.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, it's because it has to do with the Roads and Highway Ministry. That's why I was leading.
Thank you. I thought we were still doing Works and Housing. That's why I said he was here. Yes, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to move the resolution numbered 16 at pages 8 and 9 on today's order paper may be adopted by the House. I so move.
16 and 17.
16 and 17.
Yes.
Then they are different ones and separate. So we have to do the Takwa one also.
Does the report not cover the two?
The report is covering the two, but the resolutions are okay. Then I move the resolutions numbered 16 and 17, and also 18 on today's order paper at pages 8, 9, and 10 should be adopted by the House. I'm so moved, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member Fadakulu.
Right, Mr. Speaker. I second the motion for the resolution.
Honorable members, the motion for the resolution has been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. All against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. The House has adopted the motions numbered 16, 17, and 18 on today's order paper. Yes, Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we can do item 9.
Item number 19.
Yes.
Motion. Chairman of the committee.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to move that item listed 19 on page 11 on today's order paper be moved today. I so move, Honorable Speaker. And in so doing, I present your committee's report. The Speaker, I will seek your indulgence and ask the hazard to pick the entire report as I read highlights of the report. So, Speaker, governments over the years have implemented and continue to implement a number of road infrastructure projects to connect districts, municipalities, and the metropolitan area. On the feeder routes network of about 42,000 kilometers, only 25,931 kilometers is adequate drainage. The remaining network is uninjured earth routes with water crossing, which are not bridged. Besides, there are about 10,000 kilometers of track which cannot be improved without installation of critical bridges or culverts. The Speaker, state the objectives of the project. The objective of this supply contract include to satisfy basic human needs by increasing accessibility to hospitals, schools, and other social cultural facilities, which are greatly hampered by lack of bridge at river crossing points. The Speaker, to remove at river crossing and improve movement of goods and people within the areas of influence, and to contribute to economic development and alleviation of. So, Speaker, Table 1 shows the cost component breakdown of the bridges, £43 million. The Speaker, the committee noted that under the supply agreement, Maybell Bridge is registered as across global world of Ghana's natural infrastructure portfolio with bridges that assist communities in different parts of the country. Mr. Speaker, I go to duration of the project. The committee noted that under the terms of the contract agreement, the project is to be completed within a period of 24 months or 730 calendar days from the commencement date. I go straight to the conclusion, Speaker. The committee, having carefully examined the supply contract agreement and satisfied that the project will be of immense benefit and enhance the quality of life of road users from supply the bridges for emergency implementations and water crossing points across the country, facilitate accessibility, and recommend to the House to adopt its report and approve the contract agreement for supply of 89 pre-fabricated bridges for the amount of £43 million between the government of the Republic of Ghana and neighbor bridges for the country are respectfully submitted. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Ranking Member. Right, Honourable Speaker, I rise to second the motion and also make a few comments. Mr. Speaker, as stated by the chairman, we do have a huge deficit to bridge a lot of depressions along the length and breadth of across the country. I'm sure we can all manage drive slowly along roads riddled with potholes, but it's not easy, or it's almost impossible to drive along a road when you have a ditch or a valley. It is for this reason that we should all make the effort to support to provide these sorts of interventions, especially in our rural communities. Mr. Speaker, not too long ago, this House approved a loan facility called the Spanish Bridges. Indeed, over the years, we've been building bridges, whether Dutch bridges and many of them. For me, Mr. Speaker, the scope of works of the Spanish bridges appear to be the most relevant, in a sense that came with provision of funds for the concrete works. So when those 50 bridges are deployed, the money for the concrete works, everything was inbuilt. So I was surprised the government stepping back to do this, where we buy the steel components from Gloucester in the UK and then store them. And then when there's an emergency, government will now have to find the money to do the concrete works before we deploy the bridge on them. But we were assured that this is also necessary. In fact, I suspect why the list of the beneficiary bridges were not attached, because it's not necessarily supposed to be deployed tomorrow. It is probably as and when the need arises. Mr. Speaker, it is true that this is not new though. Historically, we've always bought bridge components and stored them and deployed them as and when we need them. The only thing is, I don't understand why 89 bridges will take 2 years to be delivered, because they are standard components. I thought it should take less than that to be delivered. But the truth is, this is the contract we signed. It will be delivered, as we are told, in 3 batches over the 24-month period. Mr. Speaker, I would just encourage the ministry to make the necessary budgetary allocation for us to be able to do the concrete work as and when it is necessary. Mr. Speaker, I have not much more to say than to say this is necessary. We are told we have over 5,000 number of 5,000 deficit in terms of breaching points across the country, and this just adds to solve a little bit of problem. But I'm told the Ghana Revenue says little drops of water makes a mighty ocean. Progressively, I'm sure we'll deal with the 5,000 eventually. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Yes, Honourable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, water crossing is one of the major challenges that we have on our roads. On all our roads, the trunk roads, the feeder roads, and urban roads. When such situation happens, dwellers will have to make long detours to their destinations, inconveniencing them. Mr. Speaker, there are areas within our country that we have termed overseas. It's all because of water crossings that we've not been able to bridge. So this facility that we are considering is so important to the nation. The components that we are going to have, the 89 bridges, are of 30-meter span. So every channel, river channel, that the tower span can fit in will be used. It's for 30-meter span. And the concerns have been raised that the components will be stored and will not be used. Not at all. I was speaking, the 89 that we are having is not adequate for the number of water crossings that have been identified. Even on feeder roads alone is 5,000, where 1,300 has been prioritized. GHA has a number of them, urban roads has a number of them. So they will be used. There are many roads that need these components. Honorable Speaker, we will have to cut the abutment walls before we launch these steel components. And that has been the fear or concerns of people, that if you do not have money to construct the abutment walls, then these components will be wasted. But once there's an emergency, the monies will be found to construct the abutment walls. And I can assure the House that we are not bringing in these steel components and will be lying at Achimku Krantumi because we do not have money to construct the abutment walls. These components are for emergency situations, and therefore they will be used as soon as we get them. The report, I think, also indicates the schedule of delivery, which we all know. And the Speaker, this is an important facility that will help us, although 89 is not adequate. There's a saying that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step. So we are starting with this 89. The government is also trying to construct reinforced concrete bridges and culverts at some river crossing points, some water crossing points. So this facility, efforts of the government, the Ministry of Roads and Highways, in building our roads, in constructing culverts, pipe culverts, and box culverts and bridges, I believe we'll be taking this challenge that we have on our trunk roads, one step another. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Opportunity to.
Yes, Honorable Waji. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to few comments on the bridges, the bridge components for the Ministry of Roads and Highways. First, a bit of historical information. These are the type of bridges which were previously being built by the field engineers, regiment of the Ghana Armed Forces. Whenever there was a crossing, a bridge damaged or so, the field engineers will move in, put in a temporary bridge, and things, traffic are moving. After some time, it was handed over to the Ghana Highway Authority, and they have been doing a very good job about it. They are able to react in any emergency where a bridge is washed off or so. I remember in the year 2000, a bridge on connecting Ghana.
1 minute. Having regards to the state of the business of the House, I direct that it's outside the regular sitting hours. May continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A bridge in the year 2000 connecting Ghana and the Republic of Togo was damaged beyond repair by an articulated truck which was fully laden with materials. Okay. Unarticulated loading with building materials. In just 1 week, the bridge maintenance unit of the Ghana Highway Authority was able to move in and put in a steel bridge. It so surprised the Togolese authorities that it was more like a tourist attraction. Every day you have cars, bus load up in to check. What they were saying was that if it was in their case, they would have had to write to France and then come and look at it before something is done. And it would have taken more than about 6 months to be able to put something. And that was a real plus for us. With the global warming coming, continuously coming, we expect that most of the time bridges may have problems. Why? Because when it rains, you get water running off and you have more rainfall. Some of our bridges have lasted time. So sometimes in an emergency, you need some of these ones to help sustain to help keep the load so that the bridge does not wash off. I know these bridges will be put to very good use because the bridge maintenance unit has been reacting a lot to some of these emergencies. That is why you don't hear too much of roads becoming inaccessible and so on. It is a good project. I think we should have more of this so that we will be prepared in any emergency. In fact, some of these may even go to replace some of the existing steel bridges, which may be of shorter span, and therefore we have other components to do other things. The only I would like to say, maybe not too much in the negative. For a bridge of this, for a project of this magnitude, we would have expected that the value for money audit would have been done before we go ahead. We are informed that it is in the process of being done, but it would have been more comforting if this had been done earlier. With these few words, I would like to urge the House to approve this facility so that the components can come in. It will put Ghana on a ready, that's Ghana Highway Authority on a ready footing in case something happens to be able to react. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the words, and I urge members to second the motion.
At the conclusion of the debate, yes, Honorable Leader. In that case, let me give it to the leadership. So let me start from the minority. Otherwise, let me start from the minority, then I'll come here. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to also contribute towards the support and vote for this motion. It is very important because those of us who come from rural areas with streams and small areas where they are cut off most of the time, these bridges are the only way that people cross over to their farms and to do other things. It is therefore important. But I want to again urge the ministry. They've given us all the assurance that the bridges will be ready and be used when anytime there is a need for them. But that also means that we have to do a prior survey and really find out areas that will need the bridges. The idea of asking people to make requests is going to have a flood of letters all wanting the things. But the Department of Feeder Roads and the highways should be able to do a survey that tells them that this is the most critical areas. These are water-prone and locked out areas that we need to reserve these things for. Otherwise, it will depend on the person's ability to lobby or to who gets there first, and not necessarily the one who needs it. So I once again urge the ministry to do a dispassionate thing and request their own departments to do the survey irrespective of other people's wishes and interests. I support the motion, and I think that everybody should vote for it.
Yes, Honorable. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. The Speaker, I rise to contribute to the motion in support of the agreement, the supply agreement between the Republic of Ghana and Mabi Bridges. The Speaker, the social impact to this agreement, I can never ever sleep over, because, Mr. Speaker, we lose crossing rivers and waters, and every life lost to this state is very expensive for us. And I would by this congratulate His Excellency the President and my own colleagues, the Minister of Roads and Highways, by helping the Ghana Highway Authority to build capacity. The Speaker, over the years, when we had the Adomi Bridge, it took us a long period, and we had to cut off two very useful regions of our country for a period in commuting and helping us communicate. Speaker, this is going to enhance the men's unit's build-up of equipment for erection and maintaining the already established bridges that we have in this country. I'm happy this is not the first time we're having prefabricated bridges for our country, but this is quite a lot. And I would want to say that the period of 24 months is ideal, because as we all agree, engineering, prefabricating them, and the contract as well. Like the minister in his contribution said, we need to raise the abutments, and like he said, we are fine. But even those constructions and putting them in situ, which is not prefab, will take time, because the concrete needs to cure, and we must be sure that whatever structure we have erected is sound, is solid, and it is going to take time. And so I believe the duration as it is offered in engineering sense is in its right direction. Mr. Speaker, I am a person that lives by a river, and I live by a lot of rivers. And so when I see that we are bringing them and we are going to enhance the capacity of our own constituents who double up as employees of the Ghana Highway Authority in the public service. Mr. Speaker, we are providing employment for people, and we are also going to provide indirect employment. And this is coming to help meet the social impact the country is so much in need of. And building the capacity of our existing personnel within the Ghana Highway Authority through this agreement is very, very welcoming. And with this, I would really want to encourage the House that we all should support this agreement and ensure that Ghana grows for the better future. Thank you.
At the conclusion of the debate, the question is: all in favor of the motion, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. On resolution numbered 20. Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, I move that resolution numbered 20 on pages 11 and 12 of today's order paper may be adopted by the House. I so move.
Yes, Honorable Ranking Member.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I rise to support the adoption of the motion for the resolution as moved by the Minister. Thank you.
Members, all in favor of the motion for that resolution number 20, say aye. All against, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. This House has adopted the resolution number 20 on page 11 and 12 of today's order paper. Yes, Honorable Majority Leader.
Speaker, you can deal with item number 6. Item 6.
Item number 6, motion by the Minister for Aviation.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation Prevention Bureau Bill 2020 be now read the third time. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, any seconder.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to a second motion.
Honourable members, the motion for the third reading has been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it.
An act to establish the Aircraft Accident Investigation and Prevention Bureau to investigate, prevent, regulate and oversee the management of aircraft accidents and incidents that occur in Ghana and to provide for related matters.
Honourable members, the Aircraft Accident Investigation and Prevention Bureau Bill 20 is duly read a third time and passed. Yes, Honourable Majority.
Speaker, respectfully, we did an amendment to include incidents.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
I said that we amended the long title to include incidents. So it's aircraft accident incidents that appears missing. So that we get it right.
Very well. So I repeat the bill that has been passed. So the Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation and Prevention Bureau Bill 2020 now read the third time and duly passed. Yes, Honourable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I believe we can take an adjournment and then come to continue on Monday. On Monday.
Very well. Yes, Minority.
The Speaker, the pro tem leader for the minority is saying that I didn't hear what I said. I said, I believe we can take an adjournment now and come to continue on Monday. But I don't need to move a motion because of the time.
Yes, Minority.
Mr. Speaker, we are ready for the adjournment. So, Mr. Speaker, up to now, we haven't received our salary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The House is adjourned till Monday, the 3rd of August 2020 at 10 o'clock in the forenoon.